The courtroom doors exploded open. In walked Police Chief Marcus Donovan, 6'3", badge shining like a threat, ego so thick you could choke on it. He didn't wait for permission. He didn't wait for order. He marched straight to the center, locked eyes with Judge Judy, and said the words that would destroy him. "You're nothing." The room went dead silent. Judge Judy didn't flinch. She just leaned forward, calm, cold, deadly, and whispered, "You just made the worst mistake of your life." Then she opened a file. And what came next? The arrogant chief who walked in like a king was sobbing like a child before she even finished reading. The echo of Marcus Donovan's insult still hung in the air like gunpowder when Judge Judy lifted the file, slowly, deliberately, as though she were unsheathing a weapon. Marcus's chest swelled in defiance. The gallery leaned forward in one collective inhale. The gavel hadn't struck yet, but the courtroom was already a battlefield, tension thick enough to taste. The camera caught the shine on Marcus's badge, not a symbol of honor today, but of arrogance sharpened into armor. He towered in the center aisle, refusing to sit, refusing even to acknowledge the bailiff's gesture toward the defendant's table. Judge Judy didn't tell him again. She didn't need to. She simply opened the file. A single page rustled. Somehow that soft sound was louder than Marcus's entrance. "The court will proceed," Judy said, her voice calm, carved from granite. "Officer Daniels, you may speak." The young patrol officer stood from the witness seat, fingers trembling so hard they tapped the wooden rail like raindrops. He couldn't meet Marcus's eyes. No one could blame him. Marcus Donovan wasn't just the police chief. He was the kind of chief who believed the badge made him king. Daniels swallowed, then began. "He told me," the officer said, voice cracking, "that if I filed the report, I'd regret it." A murmur slid across the gallery. Judy didn't react, but Marcus scoffed loudly, arms crossed, posture radiating contempt. "Officer Daniels," Judy asked gently, "what report are we referring to?" Daniels' voice steadied as he answered, "The one about the excessive force incident. I witnessed him retaliating against a civilian over a traffic stop." Marcus stepped forward aggressively. "This is ridiculous. He's lying to save his own skin." Judy didn't even glance at him. "Chief Donovan," she said lightly, "you are not to interrupt." The softness made the warning more lethal. Daniels continued, gaining confidence with each word. He described Marcus ordering him to adjust his statement, then threatening to demote him when he refused. His hands shook, his eyes glistened. Shame, fear, exhaustion, all of it was laid bare under the courtroom lights. Marcus smirked again, as if the testimony were beneath him. "He's inexperienced. He misunderstood." Judy finally looked up, slowly. "Is that your official stance?" she asked. Marcus nodded arrogantly. "Obviously." The judge tilted her head, studying him the way a surgeon studies an open wound. Then she turned a page in the file, a page Marcus clearly didn't know existed. "I see," she murmured. "Then perhaps you can help me understand something else." Marcus's smirk faltered. Judy held up the page, angled so the cameras could focus. A bold timestamp glowed under the overhead lights like a flare in the night, a timestamp that contradicted Marcus's sworn statement by nearly 30 minutes. Marcus's shoulders stiffened. The gallery gasped. Judy set the page down with surgical precision. "Chief Donovan," she said, voice calm as winter, "would you like to explain this timestamp?" Marcus's mouth opened, but before he could shape a lie, the courtroom door clicked open behind him. Someone walked in, and his face instantly drained of color. The timestamp on the page pulsed beneath the lights like a heartbeat on a monitor, steady, undeniable, damning. And Marcus Donovan, who swaggered in like a storm, suddenly looked like a man caught in the flash of oncoming headlights. Then the doors clicked shut behind him. He didn't turn around at first. He didn't need to. The shift in the room was instant, a tightening, a quieting. Even the bailiff's stance changed, subtle but alert, as though danger had just walked in wearing familiar shoes. Judy didn't look up from the file. "You may join us," she said, voice neutral. Slow steps approached down the center aisle, not rushed, not hesitant, deliberate, like someone entering a room knowing a truth was about to land like a hammer. Marcus finally pivoted. His jaw clenched, his nostrils flared, and for the briefest second, the mask cracked. Standing a few feet behind him was a woman in uniform, posture straight as a spine of steel, her gaze colder than the marble floor. The bars on her collar glinted. Captain Elena Ruiz. A ripple of recognition swept the gallery. Some people whispered, some simply stared. Ruiz was known, respected, steady, loyal to the badge, and formerly loyal to him. Marcus swallowed hard. "You shouldn't be here," he muttered, the words barely audible but sharp. Ruiz didn't blink. "On the contrary, Chief," she said. "I should have been here a long time ago." She moved past him, heading toward the witness stand. As she did, Marcus reached out as if to stop her, but the bailiff took one step forward, and Marcus froze, hand in midair, fingers curling into a shaky fist. Judy raised an eyebrow. "Captain Ruiz," she said, still turning pages, "your appearance is timely." Ruiz nodded once. "Ma'am, I have information relevant to this case." Marcus barked out a humorless laugh. "She's disgruntled, passed over for promotion. She's here for revenge, not truth." Ruiz didn't even look at him. "Truth doesn't care about my rank," she said softly. "Or yours." Judy held up the timestamp again. "Captain Ruiz, are you familiar with this?" Ruiz's jaw tightened. "Yes, because I was ordered to destroy the footage associated with it." The gallery erupted. Gasps, whispers, disbelief. Marcus spun toward her, eyes blazing. "You're lying." Ruiz finally faced him. "No, Marcus, I'm done lying." The pain in her voice wasn't weakness. It was betrayal forged into resolve. Judy let the noise settle before she spoke again. "Captain, did you comply with the order?" Ruiz exhaled. "No, I refused. I was transferred the next morning." Judy's eyes sharpened. "Transferred or punished?" Ruiz didn't answer in words. Her silence was enough. Marcus's face turned an alarming shade of red. "This is ridiculous." "Enough." Judy's command cracked across the courtroom like a whip. She turned another page, brow furrowing. "Chief Donovan," she said slowly, each syllable a blade. "According to this, the footage you claim was never recorded. Was not only recorded, but reviewed." Marcus's breath hitched. "And according to this notation," Judy continued, tapping the page, "the reviewer's initials are yours." The room went still as stone. Marcus didn't move. Because the initials weren't the only surprise, a shadow appeared in the doorway behind him, someone else arriving who knew exactly what those initials meant. The heels hit the floor first, sharp, deliberate clicks that carved through the silence like a metronome counting down to judgment. Every head turned. Marcus didn't. He couldn't. His spine had gone rigid, as if the very sound froze him where he stood. She stepped fully into the courtroom, a woman in her late 30s, crisp charcoal suit, hair pinned back with military precision. No badge, no uniform. But she radiated authority, the kind earned through scars, not rank. Her eyes locked on Marcus with such intensity that even the cameras instinctively zoomed in, as though drawn by the gravity of her gaze. Marcus whispered, barely audible, "No, not her." Judge Judy finally lifted her eyes. "Identify yourself for the record." The woman strode toward the bench with controlled confidence, a folder pressed against her chest like a sealed fate. "My name is Captain Elena Ruiz," she announced. A stunned murmur rippled across the gallery. Judy blinked. "Captain Ruiz is already present." The woman shook her head. "That's Lieutenant Ruiz," she said, glancing at the uniformed officer seated. "We share a last name, but not a past." She stopped at the witness stand. Her voice was steady, but her jaw was tight, as if containing something volatile. "I'm Internal Affairs," she continued, "and I'm here because Chief Donovan assumed I never found this." She lifted the folder. Marcus took one involuntary step back, the way a predator does when it finally realizes the gun is pointed at him. Judy gestured to the stand. "Proceed." Ruiz climbed up, sat, and set the folder on her lap. She didn't open it yet. Instead, her eyes drifted to Marcus, not with anger, but disappointment, the kind that sinks deeper. "Chief Donovan was under a preliminary investigation," she said evenly. "We suspected retaliation against subordinates, but we didn't have hard proof." Marcus snapped, "You had nothing because there was nothing." "Sit," Judy ordered, voice low but lethal. Marcus swallowed and complied. Ruiz continued, 2 years ago, a civilian complaint landed on my desk. Something about it smelled wrong. The timing, the edits, the signatures. She tilted her head. Especially the part where Marcus insisted on handling it personally. The audience leaned in. Ruiz opened the folder. A flash drive glinted inside like a buried secret finally exhumed. I retrieved this audio file from a corrupted server, she said. A file that was never meant to be found again. Marcus's face drained of color. Judy's expression sharpened. What's on it? Ruiz's gaze didn't leave Marcus. His voice, ordering officers to falsify statements, threatening careers, retaliating against a civilian he claimed was a personal problem. The gallery erupted. The bailiff shouted for quiet. Marcus shot to his feet, voice cracking. That file was deleted. Ruiz's lips curled into a humorless smile. You really thought dragging it into the recycle bin made it vanish forever? Judy held out her hand, and Ruiz placed the flash drive into it with solemn finality. Judy plugged it in. A soft crackle filled the speakers. Marcus's voice emerged, unmistakable, commanding, venom-laced. Fix the report or I'll fix you. Silence. Absolute. Crushing. Judy froze, eyes widening, but not at the audio. Her gaze had drifted to something else in Ruiz's folder, something faintly highlighted on the printout beneath the drive. Captain, she said slowly, why is this timestamp 2 days before the incident was officially reported? The room collectively inhaled, because that meant someone had known and hidden it. The audio crackled again, Marcus's voice dripping through the speakers like oil, but the timestamp printed under the waveform burned hotter than anything he said. 2 days early, 2 days impossible. 2 days that changed the meaning of everything. Judge Judy didn't breathe for a moment. She simply stared at the date on the printout, the way a seasoned detective stares at a clue they know is going to detonate the entire case. The gallery didn't dare whisper. Even the courtroom cameras seemed to lean in, electric and hungry. Captain Ruiz, Judy said quietly, this recording predates the civilian complaint. Ruiz nodded, throat tight. Yes, Your Honor. How is that possible, Judy continued, if the incident hadn't yet been filed? Marcus's voice, coming from the speakers from the past, answered in the worst way imaginable. Make it happen. I don't care how you provoke him. I need leverage. A collective gasp rippled across the gallery, horrified, sharp, metallic. Marcus lunged toward the desk. Turn that off. That's taken out of context. Judy slammed the gavel. Sit down. The authority in her voice could have cut steel. Marcus froze, then slowly sank into the chair, sweat shining across his temples. For the first time, the badge pinned to his chest didn't look like armor. It looked like evidence. Ruiz kept her eyes forward. Chief Donovan instructed an officer to instigate the civilian. The altercation wasn't spontaneous. She swallowed. It was manufactured. The young patrol officer in the front row blinked, his face going ghost pale. He set it up? Ruiz nodded once. The recording continued. Once he snaps, the department will have what it needs to bury his complaint. Consider this a preemptive correction. The gallery reacted as if struck. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Another covered their mouth. Even the bailiff shifted, jaw tightening, eyes flicking toward Marcus with something dangerously close to disgust. Marcus slammed his palm on the table. That audio's manipulated. I never said, Judy interrupted softly, too softly. Your initials are on the review form, dated the same day this audio was archived. She held up the document. His initials glared back at him. Explain that, she said. Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Ruiz, voice gentler now, added, You reviewed it. You approved its deletion. You didn't expect the backup server to retain fragments. Marcus shook his head like a man trying to wake from a nightmare. You don't understand. That civilian, he wasn't innocent. Judy raised a hand. We are not discussing the civilian. We are discussing your abuse of authority. Marcus's lips trembled, not from fear, from the realization that his empire was cracking at its foundation, cracking loudly, publicly. Judy leaned back, her gaze a cold scalpel. Chief Donovan, you didn't respond to the audio. You didn't respond to the timestamp. You didn't respond to the destruction order. She tapped the folder. And each piece tells me the same thing. Marcus looked up, hollow. Which is, she closed the file with a soft, lethal thud, that you've been lying since the moment you walked in. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded, waiting. Judy opened another file, one Marcus hadn't noticed on her bench, and her eyes darkened. This, she said, changes everything. Because inside that new file was a document with handwriting that looked disturbingly familiar. And it wasn't Marcus's. Judy slid the new file toward the edge of the bench, the paper's corner catching the light like a razor. Marcus leaned forward instinctively, curiosity eclipsing fear, until he saw the handwriting. His face collapsed, because it wasn't his, and it wasn't Ruiz's. Judge Judy tapped the top page with a single finger. "Chief Donovan, do you recognize this?" Marcus swallowed. Hard. The room waited with attention so tight it felt like wire. I don't know what that is," he muttered. Judy arched a brow. "Interesting, because this handwriting appears on 5 separate internal memos, each authorizing disciplinary actions you claimed were made verbally." She flipped the page. The next memo bore the same loops, the same angled strokes, bold, assertive handwriting that dragged across the paper with intention. The gallery leaned in. Ruiz narrowed her eyes. The young patrol officer shifted uncomfortably. Even the bailiff's expression hardened. Judy continued, voice silky and dangerous. "These memos targeted officers who refused to comply with your orders, officers who questioned your judgment, officers—" She turned another page. "Like Officer Daniels." The officer's breath hitched. Marcus blinked rapidly. "This is some setup." "Chief," Judy cut in sharply, "these memos came from inside your department. Someone was approving your retaliation before you even requested it. And," Ruiz added, "covering your tracks when you overreached." Marcus's composure faltered. No, that doesn't make sense." "Who would—" Judy didn't speak. Instead, she lifted the final page. A transfer recommendation, one that removed Ruiz from her post, signed in that same handwriting. Ruiz stiffened, jaw tight. "So it wasn't him who filed this." Her voice was low, controlled. "Someone else wanted me out." The realization hit the gallery like a cold wave. Marcus shook his head, sweating now. "I didn't authorize that transfer. I thought the chief of staff signed it." Judy's eyes glittered. "Your chief of staff swore under oath she had no part in authorizing disciplinary actions for IA personnel." Marcus's face twisted. "Then who the hell—" Judy leaned forward, voice dropping to a whisper sharp enough to cut. "The same person who's been feeding you orders, feeding your ego, feeding the illusion that none of your actions would ever be questioned." Marcus's breathing quickened. His fingers dug into the table. "No, you can't be serious." Ruiz leaned in. "Name them, Marcus." He didn't answer. He couldn't. He was trembling, the beginning of the unraveling. Judy closed the file. "Chief Donovan, I have in my possession 6 witness statements from within your department." She paused before delivering the blow. "Anonymous statements," Marcus snapped upright. "Anonymous?" "Yes," Judy said, "from officers who watched you retaliate, who watched you bully, who watched you believe the rules didn't apply to you." His face contorted with disbelief. "They betrayed me." "No," Judy answered softly. "They protected themselves." A murmur rolled through the gallery. Pity, revulsion, shock. Marcus's bravado drained like water through cupped hands. His voice cracked. Who wrote those memos? If it wasn't me—" Judy didn't blink. "You'll find out soon enough." The side door opened with a heavy creak, and another figure stepped inside, uniform crisp, expression grim. A witness Marcus never expected, someone whose presence alone made his knees go weak. The retired sergeant had arrived. He walked in slowly, not with arrogance, not with fear, but with the weight of a man who'd carried a secret for far too long. His uniform was immaculate, medals aligned with military precision, but his eyes looked like they hadn't known a full night's sleep in years. The retired sergeant, Samuel Hart, paused as the door closed behind him. His presence shifted the air, grounding the room in a heavy, sorrowful gravity. Even Marcus, who had roared at everyone else, said nothing. His face drained of color as Hart approached the witness stand. Judy watched him carefully. "State your name for the record." His voice was gravel. Sergeant Samuel Hart, retired after 34 years of service. A quiet respect swept through the gallery, but it evaporated when Hart turned toward Marcus. That look wasn't respect. It was resignation, regret, and something dangerously close to shame. Judy gestured for him to sit. "Sergeant Hart, why are you here today?" "You're under no obligation." Hart lowered himself slowly, as if his bones carried the courtroom's tension. "Your Honor, I came because I've been running from this for too long." Marcus finally snapped out of his shock. "Sam, don't do this. You don't owe them anything." Hart didn't even look his direction. "I owe everyone, including you, Marcus, and that's why I'm here." A hush fell. Judy leaned forward, fingers steepled. "Speak freely." Hart exhaled. Chief Donovan didn't become this way overnight. His gaze lifted to the gallery. We all saw it happening. The temper, the threats, the way rank turned into a weapon he wielded against anyone who challenged him. Marcus shot up, voice cracking. "You backed me! You signed off on every—" Hart finally faced him, eyes blazing with a decades-old guilt. "Because I was afraid of you, Marcus, and because I helped build the monster you turned into." The gallery gasped. Hart continued, voice trembling. "You were young, ambitious, and when you crossed lines, we told ourselves it was passion. When you bent rules, we called it initiative. When you retaliated, we justified it as stress." He swallowed hard. "By the time I realized what you were becoming, it was too late. You outranked everyone, and you knew it." Ruiz stared at him, stunned. "Sergeant, why didn't you speak up?" Hart's eyes reddened. "Because I thought silence made me loyal." He looked at Daniels, the young officer who'd suffered firsthand. "But all it made me was complicit." Daniels blinked rapidly, fighting tears. Marcus's voice wavered, breaking entirely. "Sam, please. You know I trusted you." Hart shook his head. "No, Marcus. You used me. And I let you, because I didn't want to be the next target." Judy's gaze softened, not with sympathy, but with understanding. "Fear is powerful," she said quietly, "but it is not a defense." Hart nodded, shoulders sagging. "I'm here to tell the truth. The department didn't fall apart under Marcus Donovan. We handed him the hammer and watched him swing." The gallery fell silent. Hart turned to Marcus, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry for everything I let happen." Marcus stared at him, wounded, betrayed, small. Judy closed her notebook, eyes sharpening. "Sergeant Hart, your testimony raises another question." She reached for a sealed envelope. "One that reveals why Chief Donovan spiraled in the first place." The room stiffened. Hart's eyes widened. And Marcus's breath caught because he knew exactly what envelope that was. The envelope lay on the bench like a ticking device, thin, unassuming, but capable of blowing apart every lie Marcus had built his career on. Judge Judy tapped it once. The sound echoed. Marcus looked like the floor had vanished beneath him. Judy slid the envelope forward with a single, controlled motion. "Sergeant Hart, you said Chief Donovan didn't become this man overnight, that someone helped shape him." Hart swallowed hard, his gaze flicking to Marcus with a pain that cut deeper than anger. "Yes, Your Honor." But Judy wasn't looking at Hart anymore. Her attention was fixed squarely on Marcus. "Chief Donovan," she said, voice cool as marble, "you seem to recognize this envelope. Why?" Marcus's lips parted, but nothing came out. His throat bobbed once. Twice. Then he whispered, Because it shouldn't exist." The gallery leaned forward like a single organism. Judy opened the envelope. Inside was a single report, yellowed at the edges, creased with wear, but its headline hit the courtroom like a brick. "Civilian complaint. Prior history filed. 12 years ago. Accused, Chief Marcus Donovan." The audience gasped. Daniels covered his mouth. Ruiz's spine straightened. Hart's head dropped. Judy read aloud, her voice unwavering. "Complaint alleges harassment, intimidation, and targeted retaliation for personal reasons." Marcus squeezed his eyes shut. "That report was resolved. It was dismissed." Ruiz stepped forward. "Dismissed because the civilian withdrew the complaint and vanished from the city 2 days later." Marcus snapped. "He moved. He had family out of state." Ruiz raised a brow. "Coincidentally, after receiving a visit from officers under your command." The murmur in the gallery grew darker, heavier, like thunder gathering. Judy turned a page. This civilian, his last name matches someone else in this room. Marcus's eyes shot open, panic flooding them. Judy slid the document to the edge of the bench so the cameras could zoom in. Complainant, Elias Ruiz, relation to Captain Elena Ruiz, brother. The entire courtroom erupted. Shock, disbelief, outrage. Captain Ruiz froze, jaw clenched, eyes burning. You went after my brother. Marcus stumbled back a step. I didn't know he was your... He never said... Stop! Judy's voice sliced through the chaos. Explain the motive. Marcus looked around wildly, as if searching for air in a room that offered none. He humiliated me, publicly, accused me of misuse of power in front of my entire team. Ruiz stepped closer, voice trembling with controlled fury. So you retaliated against my family. Marcus's face twisted. He tried to ruin my reputation. And you set out, Judy said, leaning forward, to ruin his life. Marcus trembled, the bravado gone. His voice cracked like thin ice under too much weight. He pushed me. He challenged me. He made me look weak. Judy stared at him, her expression shifting, not to sympathy, but to deep, chilling clarity. Ah, she said softly, so that's what all this was. A man obsessed with appearances, with control, with image. Marcus's breath shook. Judy closed the report slowly, deliberately. You didn't retaliate because of duty, she said. You retaliated because of ego. Before Judy could continue, Ruiz lifted her hand. Your Honor, she said, voice low, shaken. I have one more thing. She reached into her coat and pulled out a single sheet of paper Marcus instantly recognized and instantly feared. It was a sheet that could destroy what little remained of him. The paper in Captain Ruiz's hand shook, not with fear, but with a fury so controlled it felt colder than rage. Marcus saw it and flinched because he knew exactly what she was holding, and he knew exactly what it meant. Ruiz approached the bench slowly, the sheet pinched between her fingers like something toxic. She didn't look at Marcus. She didn't need to. The way he staggered back told the whole story. Judy gestured for her to step forward. What is that, Captain? She asked. Ruiz's voice was low, steady. The kind of steady that people use when holding back a tidal wave. A personnel authorization form. She paused. One that bears my signature. The gallery buzzed with confusion until Ruiz turned the page toward the camera, revealing the unmistakable swooping R, the tight angular U, and the last name Ruiz scrawled boldly at the bottom, her signature, except it wasn't. It's forged, she said quietly. Every stroke copied from prior forms, but slightly rushed, sloppy. Judy leaned forward. This form authorized what action, Captain? The answer detonated in the room. My reassignment. The transfer that pulled me off Marcus's division the moment I started questioning his decisions. A deep, sickened groan moved through the audience. Marcus shook his head violently. I didn't sign that. I didn't forge anything. Ruiz turned, eyes burning with something sharper than betrayal, clarity. You didn't have to, because someone did it for you. Heart stiffened. Daniels leaned in, the bailiff's brows knit hard. Judy raised a hand. Who forged it? Ruiz didn't answer immediately. Instead, she placed the sheet gently onto the evidence tray. I didn't know at first, but I've spent the last week digging through archived digital forms, metadata, access logs. She looked at Marcus, and for the first time, her voice cracked, not with weakness, but with heartbreak. Someone inside the department forged my signature to remove me because they believed you were untouchable. Marcus stared at her, dazed. Who would do that? Ruiz closed her eyes for a moment. Someone who knew every crease of my handwriting. Someone who handled my paperwork for years. Someone who admired you. A cold realization slid down Marcus's spine. He whispered the name before she said it. No. Naomi. The courtroom gasped. Judge Judy turned sharply toward the clerk's desk. Naomi, the petite, quiet clerk, had gone white as paper. Her hands shook beneath the desk. Papers slipped from her grip. Ruiz approached Naomi slowly. You forged my signature, she said, didn't you? Naomi's eyes brimmed with tears. I only did what I thought was right. He helped me when no one else did. He protected me. He said you were trying to take him down because of personal issues." Ruiz's breath left her. Not anger, not contempt, just sorrow. "You trusted him." "I believed him," Naomi whispered. I thought keeping him in power kept the department safe." Marcus stared at her, stunned. "Naomi, I never asked you to—" "No," she said. "You didn't have to." The entire room felt like it shifted, like gravity itself tilted under the weight of the revelation. Naomi wiped her eyes, broken. "I thought you were a hero. I didn't realize I was helping destroy people." She buried her face in her hands. Judge Judy closed her file slowly. "This changes the scope of this case," she said. Her tone had shifted, firmer, colder, official. The gallery held its breath. Cliffhanger. Before Judy could speak again, the courtroom door burst open. A staff member rushed in, pale, breathless. "Your Honor, it's urgent. We just received another piece of evidence." He held out a flash drive, and the color drained from Ruiz's face, because the label on it read, "Evidence, do not purge. Chain of command, Donovan." The flash drive trembled in the staffer's hand, its label handwritten in bold, frantic strokes. "Evidence, do not purge," and beneath it, the word that turned every stomach in the room, Donovan. The staffer approached the bench as if carrying something radioactive. Judy took the drive without a word, her eyes narrowing, her posture sharpening to something colder, heavier. The gallery leaned forward, barely breathing. "Where did you find this?" she asked. "Tucked inside an archive box," he replied. "Misfiled under parking citations. It was hidden, Judge. Someone wanted it buried." Judy inserted the drive. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the folder popped open on the courtroom screen. A single digital document appeared. Old, corrupted, scarred with time. "Missing report. IA complaint 77 Porar. Filed 7 years ago. Filed by anonymous officer. Subject, Chief Marcus Donovan." A sound rippled through the gallery, half gasp, half groan. Marcus's head snapped toward the screen, eyes wide, breath short. Ruiz whispered, "I thought this report was destroyed." Hart's face darkened. "So did we all." Judy opened the file. Lines of warped text filled the screen, some intact, some fragmented, but the parts that remained were devastating. Officer State's retaliation began after questioning Donovan's use of force, fear of career-ending consequences. Daniels, the young patrol officer, looked physically ill. This is exactly what happened to me." Judy's gaze hardened. "This report predates your complaint by years." Ruiz shook her head slowly, like someone watching a puzzle assemble into a horrifying picture. "The pattern goes back further than we thought." Marcus slammed his fist on the table, his voice cracked with a mixture of fury and fear. "That report was a lie, an anonymous coward trying to smear me. They were jealous." Judy didn't even blink. "Chief Donovan, your defensiveness is noted." Naomi, the clerk, tear-streaked, trembling, covered her mouth. "If this existed, why wasn't it in the system?" the staffer answered quietly. "Because someone removed it, someone with high-level access." Every eye swung to Marcus. He shook his head violently. No, I never touched that report. I didn't even know it existed." Judy tapped the screen. "According to the metadata, this file was accessed at 2:14 a.m. on a Sunday, downloaded, removed from the complaint database." She paused. "The user logged in under your credentials." The room erupted. Marcus nearly collapsed. "That's impossible. I wasn't even—" Ruiz's voice sliced through him. "Credentials can be shared, or stolen, or misused." Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. Fear, yes, but something else too. Recognition. Judy caught it. She locked onto him like a hawk. "Chief Donovan," she said slowly, "you know who had your credentials." He didn't answer, but the way he stared at the floor, the way his breath shook, the way Naomi suddenly covered her mouth again, it was all the answer the courtroom needed. Judy's eyes drifted back to the screen, because another file was listed beneath the report. A video file, time-stamped the same night. "Chief Donovan," she said, voice ice cold, "what exactly happened at your precinct at 2:14 a.m.? The color drained from his face, because he remembered, and whatever he remembered terrified him. If a system protects the powerful, who holds the system accountable? Tell me what you think. The courtroom hung frozen in the glow of the screen. A video file waiting to be opened, a chief trembling in its shadow, and a clerk whose hands were shaking long before Judy clicked anything. Judge Judy didn't open the video, not yet. Instead, she turned her gaze toward Naomi, the clerk whose pale face and trembling lip told a story she hadn't breathed a word of. "Ms. Harper," Judy said softly, "do you know anything about this file?" Naomi's breath hitched, and when she stood, the papers she'd been holding slipped from her hands and scattered like frightened birds across the floor. Normally, the bailiff would move to help, but no one moved, not even him. Naomi swallowed, throat working. Your Honor, I need to say something." Marcus turned sharply, fear igniting into anger. "Naomi, don't!" But Naomi stepped out from behind the clerk's desk, shoulders drawn inward as though the air itself were too heavy to stand under. "I did it," she whispered. The room gasped. "I removed the report. IA complaint 7714. I took it out of the system." Judy remained perfectly still. "On whose orders?" Naomi's eyes glistened. "His." She gestured weakly toward Marcus. "At least, that's what I believed then." Marcus exploded. "I never told you to—" "Sit down, Chief Donovan," Judy commanded. Marcus froze. Naomi continued, voice trembling. "He came to me late at night, months after I'd been promoted to clerk. He said someone was trying to sabotage him, that anonymous officers were filing false accusations to undermine his leadership. He said the department needed protection." She pressed her palms together, as if trying to steady herself. "He said I could help him keep the department safe." Ruiz's jaw flexed. "And you believed him?" Naomi nodded, tears spilling. "He had always been kind to me. He got me this job. He talked to me like I mattered. When he said the report was dangerous, that it would be used to tear good people down, I thought I was doing the right thing." The betrayal in her voice was palpable. Not anger at Marcus, anger at herself. Hart closed his eyes, exhaling a long, regretful breath. Judy tapped her pen against the bench, slow, rhythmic, controlled. "So you removed the report. Did you delete it?" Naomi shook her head. "No, I couldn't. Something felt wrong. So I copied it to a flash drive first, in case I ever needed to come clean." Judy gestured to the screen. "And the video file?" Naomi's face drained even paler. "I didn't know that was on there. I swear, I only copied the report. The video must have been part of the same folder." Marcus turned on her, voice trembling with fury and panic. "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked at him, hurt, hollow. "Because you stopped being the person I thought you were. And when I realized what I'd helped you do to people," her voice cracked, "I was ashamed." Silence swallowed the room. Judy reached for the mouse. "Ms. Harper, what is on this video?" Naomi shook her head violently. "I don't know, but—" She hesitated, breathing unsteady. "I remember hearing something that night. Something I never forgot." Judy paused. "What did you hear?" Naomi whispered. "A man screaming." Judy clicked the video file. The screen flickered, and the first frame froze the entire courtroom. Marcus standing in a dark hallway at 2:14 a.m., not alone, and holding something no police chief should ever carry off duty. The first frame of the video hit the room like a physical blow. Marcus Donovan, alone in the precinct hallway at 2:14 a.m., face twisted in panic and a weapon clenched in his right hand that departmental policy forbade him from carrying off duty. The weapon wasn't a service pistol, it wasn't a baton, it was worse. A taser, department issued, logged as checked in hours earlier. A stolen weapon. The gallery erupted in horrified whispers. The bailiff shouted for order, but the tension was beyond control, too sharp, too electric. Judge Judy didn't flinch. Her eyes stayed locked on Marcus, watching him like a lion might study prey that had finally stopped fighting. "Chief Donovan," she said, each word deliberate, "you were off duty that night." Marcus's lips trembled. This video is out of context." Judy raised a hand. "I haven't asked for context. I'm asking a question." He swallowed, hard. "Yes," he managed. "Then explain," Judy said, leaning forward, "why you were in the precinct with a checked-in taser, after erasing an internal affairs complaint. Marcus opened his mouth. No sound came out. Ruiz stepped closer, eyes fixed on the screen. "Play it." Judy hit play. The video rolled, grainy, low-res, but unmistakably real. Marcus moved down the hallway in frantic bursts, looking over his shoulder as if expecting someone to catch him. He wiped his face with his sleeve. He mumbled to himself, words the mic barely picked up. Then, a scream, raw, terrified. Someone yelling, "Stop, you don't have to." The audio glitched, the screen distorted, but everyone heard the next sound clearly. A taser crack. A crack followed by a thud. Then, silence. The gallery recoiled. Naomi pressed a shaking hand over her mouth. Daniels looked nauseous. Hart stared at the floor, pain spreading across his features like a bruise. Ruiz's voice was barely a whisper. "He tased someone." Marcus shot up, voice frantic. "No, that wasn't. You don't understand what he was doing." "Who?" Ruiz demanded. "Who did you tase at 2 in the morning, Marcus?" He froze, caught between rage and despair. Judy's voice dropped to a haunting softness. "Chief Donovan." Who was screaming? Marcus's eyes darted around the room, frantic, searching for escape, for justification, for anything. Finally, his voice cracked. "I didn't mean for it to go that far." The room stilled. The young officer whispered, "So it's true. You hurt someone." Marcus's hands shook violently. He approached me. He was angry. He threatened me. I thought he was going to ruin everything I worked for. I panicked. Ruiz stared at him, stunned. "You panicked. Marcus, you're the highest-ranking officer in the city. You're supposed to protect people in panic, not become it." Marcus's face twisted. Fear, shame, and something deeper. Recognition. Judy folded her hands. "Chief Donovan, this behavior, this fear, it didn't come from nowhere." She paused. "Who taught you power was something you had to defend with violence?" The room went silent, charged, waiting. Marcus blinked. Once, twice. Then his shoulders sagged, collapsing inward. "My mentor," he whispered. "Chief Halverson. He told me the world respected force. That weakness would get me killed. That fear is the tool leaders use to stay in control." Hart's head dropped. "Halverson. God help us." Ruiz looked sick. "He trained all of us, but we didn't become this." Marcus's voice broke. "I didn't know how to lead without fear. I didn't know how to survive without control." Judy watched him, eyes unreadable. "Chief Donovan," she said quietly, "there's something you need to see." She lifted a sealed file marked Confidential, Mentor Review, a file that would unravel everything Marcus believed about the man who shaped him. And the truth inside it would change everything he thought he knew about himself. The file in Judy's hands looked harmless, thin, beige, unassuming. But Marcus Donovan stared at it as if it were a loaded weapon pointed directly at his chest. And, in a way, it was. Judy slid the confidential file onto the bench with the gentleness of a surgeon setting down a scalpel. The room vibrated with the tension, the kind of silence that presses into skin and marrow. "Chief Donovan," she began, "you said your mentor, Chief Halverson, taught you everything." Marcus nodded, breath unsteady. He was the only person who believed I could be more than just a patrol officer. He shaped my career." Judy tapped the file. "So I think you deserve to know the truth about him." Marcus stiffened. "What truth?" Judy opened the file, the sharp inhale from Ruiz. The curse under Hart's breath. Even the audience reacted before Marcus could, because the first page was a misconduct summary for Halverson, then another and another. Ruiz whispered, "Oh my God." Marcus's lips parted, trembling. "No, that's not. He wasn't. This is wrong." Judy's gaze softened, not with sympathy, but with precision. "This file was sealed by the department years ago. It details multiple findings of excessive force, retaliation, and fabricated reports. Your mentor wasn't cleared. He was covered." Marcus blinked rapidly, as if refusing to let the words settle. He told me those allegations were political. A witch hunt. He said leadership needed to be tough." Hart looked away, voice heavy. "Halverson was poison, Marcus. He was charismatic, sure, but he used fear like oxygen. And he taught you to breathe it." The weight of betrayal pressed into Marcus's shoulders until he visibly caved under it. His voice cracked. He lied to me. Ruiz stepped forward, arms crossed, not hard, not accusatory, but almost mournful. He didn't just lie. He groomed you. He saw the ambition in you, the hunger to prove yourself, and he fed it. He taught you control, intimidation, survival. She paused. Not leadership. Marcus's throat tightened. I thought strength meant never showing weakness. Judy's voice was low, almost gentle. Strength and cruelty aren't the same thing. Halverson didn't teach you to lead. He taught you to dominate. Marcus's eyes finally broke, wet, red, defeated. He wasn't Chief Donovan anymore. He wasn't the towering, arrogant man who stormed into the courtroom. He was a man whose foundation had just been ripped away. He sagged into his seat, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear, I didn't know what I was becoming. Daniels, the young officer, watched him, a storm of emotions crossing his face. Anger, hurt, maybe even the faintest echo of pity. Hart placed a steady hand on the rail. We all should have stopped you earlier. That's on us, too. For the first time all trial, Marcus didn't fight, didn't yell, didn't posture. He just breathed, and even that seemed to cost him. Judy let the silence linger, let him sit with the reality of the man he'd followed and the man he'd become. Then she closed the file. Honesty, she said, is a beginning, but you're not absolved. Judy lifted her chin, eyes sharpening again. Because the consequences, she slid a new document forward. Begin now. Marcus looked up, hollow, as Judy prepared to lay out the full weight of his actions, piece by devastating piece. Judge Judy's hand hovered over the new document, not with hesitation, but with the solemn precision of someone about to carve truth into stone. Marcus straightened slowly, as if bracing for an impact he knew would break him. The room tightened around him. The gallery leaned in. Even the cameras seemed to pull closer, their red lights burning like judgment. Chief Donovan, Judy began, her voice steady as a heartbeat in the dark. Your actions have created a chain reaction of harm, legal, professional, and deeply personal. Marcus swallowed, his throat working like each word bruised. Judy didn't soften. She didn't have to. Her calmness carried more weight than shouting ever could. First, she continued, sliding the first document forward, Officer Daniels. Daniels stiffened, but met her eyes. You retaliated against him for refusing to falsify a report, Judy said. You threatened his job, his future, and his safety. Marcus's voice cracked. I never meant— Intent, Judy cut in, does not erase impact. Daniels blinked fast, emotion tightening his jaw. For the first time, Marcus looked at him, not with superiority, not with dominance, but with something unfamiliar on his face. Regret. Judy pushed another sheet forward. Second, the civilian you targeted 12 years ago, Elias Ruiz. Captain Ruiz inhaled sharply, her nails digging into her palm. You pursued him because of a personal grudge, Judy said. You used your badge to settle a private score. Marcus's breath shook. I was young. And you repeated the behavior for years, Judy reminded him. Age is not an excuse. Pattern is proof. Ruiz looked at Marcus, and the depth of pain in her eyes was harder than anger. My brother left the city because of you. He couldn't hold her gaze. Judy continued, now sliding a thicker bundle of documents forward. Third, the officers who served under you. 5 of them submitted anonymous statements describing fear, intimidation, and retaliation. Hart exhaled slowly, guilt carving deeper lines into his weathered face. We failed you too, he murmured. We should have stopped you. Judy didn't disagree. And finally, she said, lifting the last document, the system itself. Marcus looked up, hollow. The system? You didn't just break rules, Judy said. You manipulated structures meant to protect the vulnerable. She gestured toward Naomi. You leveraged loyalty. You exploited trust. You used your rank to bend the truth until people no longer recognized it. Naomi wiped her cheeks, shame dripping from every movement. Marcus's hands shook violently. I didn't know how far it had gone. Judy leaned back, studying him. Power is rarely aware of its own shadow. Silence dropped like a curtain. Marcus's voice broke. What happens now? Judy stacked the documents neatly, her movements deliberate. Now, she said, your actions must face consequences. She lifted her eyes, steady, unblinking. I am imposing full restitution to Officer Daniels, a formal civil judgment acknowledging emotional distress and professional harm. Daniels inhaled sharply, relief trembling in his chest. Additionally, Judy continued, this entire record, including the video, the forged documents, and the missing IA report, will be referred to the Oversight Board. Marcus's eyes widened, not in anger this time, but in dread. And, she finished, your badge will be suspended pending full review. A sound escaped him, half breath, half sob. But then Judy looked down at one more document, something she hadn't mentioned yet, something she'd kept aside. Before I finalize my ruling, she said quietly, there's one last matter that needs to be addressed. Marcus froze, because he knew exactly which matter she meant, and it was the one consequence he feared more than losing his badge. Judge Judy lifted the final document, not with force, not with fanfare, but with the quiet gravity of someone about to say the one thing a man like Marcus Donovan had spent his entire life avoiding. Marcus's breath froze in his chest. She didn't look at him at first. She looked at the room, at Daniels clutching the edge of his seat, at Ruiz standing rigid with the weight of truth, at Naomi shrinking into her guilt, at Hart bowing beneath decades of regret. Then her gaze returned to Marcus, steady, penetrating, unavoidable. Chief Donovan, she began, voice low but resonant, there is a consequence far greater than any restitution, any suspension, any referral. Marcus swallowed. What do you mean? Judy tapped the document with a solemn finger. This, she said, is a character assessment, one conducted by your own command staff, privately, anonymously, and long before today. Marcus stiffened. Judy opened it. The words carved themselves into the silence. Donovan leads through fear, not respect. He confuses control with competence, the gallery murmured in a low, painful chorus. Marcus's face twisted, humiliation and shock battling for dominance. No, he whispered. No, they admired me. Judy lifted her hand. He stopped instantly. Marcus, she said, using his first name for the first time. People respected your position, not you. The words hit him harder than any ruling. You spent your career believing strength meant being louder, harsher, more intimidating. You believed being feared made you effective. Her voice softened just slightly. It only made you dangerous. Marcus's shoulders shook. I tried to lead. I didn't know how else to... That's the point, Judy said. You never learned what leadership actually was. Halverson didn't teach you to lead. He taught you to dominate. He taught you that vulnerability was weakness and that compassion was optional. She leaned forward, eyes narrowing, and instead of rejecting that lesson, you embraced it. Marcus looked like he'd been punched in the lungs. His chest rose and fell in shallow, desperate breaths. Judy continued, voice now quiet as a blade sliding home. You hurt good officers. You terrified subordinates. You manipulated those who trusted you. You retaliated against anyone who challenged your authority, even civilians. Every sentence hollowed him out further. Finally, she closed the assessment and set it aside. Marcus Donovan, she said, I am issuing a formal ruling, but before I do, you need to understand something. He lifted his eyes, broken. The world does not need perfect leaders, Judy said, but it demands accountable ones. You spent years running from accountability. Today, it has caught you. Marcus trembled, tears streaking down his face, but this time he didn't wipe them away. He let them fall. The gallery watched in stunned silence, not gloating, not mocking, just witnessing the collapse of a man who had built his identity on sand. You must face, Judy concluded, the truth of the man you became. Marcus bowed his head and wept, quietly, uncontrollably, and Judy, voice steady, gavel poised, said the words that signaled the end. It's time to deliver the final ruling. The courtroom held its breath. Justice was seconds away. Is remorse enough when the damage is already done? I want to hear your thoughts. Marcus Donovan rose slowly, No badge shining on his chest, no arrogance stiffening his spine, just a man stripped of the armor he had confused for identity. For the first time since the trial began, the courtroom wasn't looking at a chief. It was looking at Marcus. Judge Judy set her gavel down, fingers steepled, eyes steady with the kind of quiet finality that breaks through even the loudest ego. "Chief Donovan," she said before correcting herself. "Mr. Donovan, please step forward." Marcus obeyed. No swagger, no command. His hands shook as he approached the bench, stopping at the very spot where he had stood hours earlier, when he'd announced himself like a king entering his kingdom. Now he stood like a man walking barefoot across broken glass. Judy opened her final file. "Mr. Donovan, this court finds substantial evidence of retaliation, abuse of authority, falsification of internal records, and manipulation of subordinate staff." He nodded, eyes wet, gaze fixed on the floor. "For Officer Daniels," Judy continued, "I'm ordering full restitution for emotional distress, loss of professional opportunity, and retaliatory harm." Daniels exhaled shakily, relief and sadness mixing in his expression. He didn't gloat. He didn't smirk. He simply watched a man who'd once terrified him finally be held accountable. "For Captain Elena Ruiz," Judy said, "I'm calling for an independent audit into the removal of her transfer records and the targeting of her family. Your actions crossed professional boundaries and personal ones." Ruiz's jaw tightened, but her eyes held something softer than anger. Closure. Finally. "For the department," Judy said, "I am referring all evidence, digital, testimonial, and physical, to the Oversight Board for a full ethics and conduct review." Marcus closed his eyes, tears rolling freely. He didn't wipe them away. Not anymore. He wasn't performing for anyone. "And regarding your badge," Judy said, her tone firm but not cruel, "it will be surrendered pending disciplinary hearings. You will step down immediately from your position as chief." The room didn't gasp. It didn't cheer. It didn't even move. It simply breathed, a long, collective exhale. Marcus nodded, voice trembling. "I understand." Judy watched him carefully. "Do you have anything to say?" He swallowed hard, then turned, not to Judy, not to the cameras, but to Daniels, Ruiz, Hart, and even Naomi. "I didn't realize what I'd become," he whispered. "I thought I was protecting the department, but I was only protecting my pride." His eyes glistened. "I'm sorry. Not because I was caught, but because you deserved better." Daniels blinked, moved despite everything. Hart bowed his head, grief and forgiveness tangled in his expression. Naomi cried openly. Ruiz stood tall, but her eyes softened. For the first time, Marcus turned back to Judy. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for stopping me." Judy nodded once, firm, resolute, but not unkind. "This is not the end of your story, Mr. Donovan, but it is the beginning of your accountability." She lifted her gavel. Judgment entered. The strike echoed like the closing of a chapter, sharp, final, honest. Marcus stepped away from the bench, lighter and heavier all at once. The courtroom watched him go, not with hatred, but with the solemn understanding that justice, real justice, isn't the destruction of a person. It's the revelation of truth. And as the doors closed behind him, the message settled over everyone like a quiet,